Imagine that, after World War II ended, with the Führer dead in the depths of his bunker, democracy restored in Germany, a tacit universal consensus decided that the Nazi war crimes should not be investigated or punished, that the Nazi Party would remain legal under various names, that a good part of the concentration camps should continue operating, at least discreetly, that no one in the Gestapo or the SS would be dismissed or interrogated, and that some good officials from these fine institutions should actually be placed in charge of the nation. Under these conditions, would you believe in the end of Nazism? Or would you instead perceive an immense upgrade of this satanic movement, stripped of its most obvious and compromising appearance, subtilized and disseminated into the air like a virus to contaminate all humanity? Would you believe in the end of Nazism if, while preserving the means of subsistence and expansion of this movement, the international media and the elite opinion instantly decreed the harshest moral repression of any explicit anti-Nazism, accusing anyone who dared to speculate, even remotely, about the risks of a Nazi regime's return under another name, of being paranoid and anti-democratic? Would you believe in the end of Nazism if, half a century after its supposed extinction, any attempt to investigate and disclose the extent of its crimes were publicly condemned as an inconvenience, a sin, a malicious act of revenge? Would you believe in the end of Nazism if, in Germany and beyond, any harsher criticism of those who once praised this genocidal regime were banned and persecuted as a crime or at least as a sign of mental illness? Would you believe in the end of Nazism if everywhere those who promoted Nazi propaganda were fawned upon and honored not only as great figures of intellectual and artistic life, but as defenders of freedom and human rights? Would you believe in the end of Nazism if notorious pro-Nazi militants were rising to power through elections in several Third World nations, while in others guerrillas, revolutions, and coups d'état, inspired by Nazi preaching, erupted? Would you believe in the end of Nazism if the nations that supposedly defeated it were surrounded by an international campaign of hatred supported by Nazi parties and organizations? Would you believe in the end of Nazism if all those who self-labeled as ex-Nazis made only very vague and generic criticisms of Hitler's regime, quickly changing the subject, but on the other hand kept attacking anti-Nazism as the worst of evils? Then, for heaven's sake, why do you believe in the end of communism? The international communist movement was neither dismantled, nor weakened, nor even accused of anything. In Russia, the Communist Party still holds a good number of seats in parliament. The KGB, under 1,000th name change since Lenin, continues operating at full speed with a budget exceeding all Western intelligence services combined. The Gulag is still full of prisoners. In China, Vietnam, North Korea, and Cuba, 1,400,000,000 people still live under the communist police state that, with every new promise of liberalization made to lure foreign investors, tightens the gears of repression and strangles any hint of organized opposition. In Latin America and Africa, new communist or pro-communist regimes arise and, before the complacent eyes of the international media, dismantle all opposition through violence or legal trickery, demolish guarantees of individual freedom and property rights, and foster guerrillas and revolutions in neighboring countries. Supported by drug trafficking networks set up by the KGB and Chinese espionage since the 1960s, today grown enough to control the economy of entire countries. In supposedly triumphant capitalist nations, slogans, values, and criteria of the Marxist cultural revolution of the 1960s are officially imposed in schools and homes as unquestionable dogma, while a tricontinental communist lobby rigidly controls the news flow in the main newspapers and TV channels. And in universities, Marxist orthodoxy manages to silence dissenting voices through intimidation and blackmail. How, in sound mind, can anyone who knows these things claim that communism is over or that it no longer represents any danger?